Good evening. Welcome to another session of the Sea of Glass, so you can come to understand the power of the laws of God in order to understand that these laws, the laws of God and the laws of man, are not the same. And what's going to happen here, I must warn you, that we are going to a different teaching now, and a teaching of the understanding where the laws of God will be determined in feelings, and the laws of man are determined in deeds. So we got to come to understand that the power here will take some people and make them understand that this is not the same teaching. The island will be moved. It's written in the book of Revelation. The island and the mountain will be moved. And we'll have to come to understanding that when it comes to that understanding, feelings are different than the deeds that people used to think, okay, now you had sex, you committed a sin, you killed somebody, you committed a sin. You got to come to understand that the different is going to be different. It's not going to be the same no more, because we're coming into the new world, and the new world are going to be different. The Lord said, I'm going to change the earth, and I'm going to change the heaven, and it's not going to be the same no more. The old earth will disappear, and the old heaven will disappear, because you got to understand that the laws of God, the thinking of God and the thinking of man is not the same thinking. So you got to, the power that we bring here is to bring the laws of God to the new way of understanding life itself. See, back years ago, if a person had sex with a woman that was not his wife, that was a whole different power of his understanding. So let's read and understand what it means, so you can come to understand the power of the great power of the Scriptures. Go ahead, Rita.
Okay, hopefully you people at home will have your Bibles handy, so you get a better understanding what Roger reveals here. We're in the Old Testament under Exodus, chapter 25, offerings for the tabernacle. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to bring me an offering. You are to receive the offering for me from each man whose heart prompts him to give. These are the offerings you are to receive from them."
Yeah, read
yeah,
some
one at a time, right?
Yes.
Gold, silver, and bronze.
You see, gold is goodness, silver is kindness, and bronze is fairness. See, these are the three verbs that you have to go to the understanding: goodness, fairness, and goodness. Anyway, the great power here is to be able to understand that these colors and these things in there are there to make you understand the glory of the understanding that God has brought. You have to come to this understanding here. So what I'm going to do, I don't want to scrupularize on anybody here. I don't want to bring this, but the laws will be so changed that you will probably close the Bible, because the understanding of God and man is not the same understanding. And what you've been practicing in religion all these years are going to be destroyed. They're going to be destroyed because they do not match the human feeling. Go ahead, Rita.
Blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and fine linen.
Everything is going to be twisted. It's going to be a twisted linen. Read the twisted linen there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Goat hair, ram skins dyed red, and hides of sea cows. Acacia wood, olive oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil and for the fragrant incense, and onyx stones and other gems to be mounted on the ephod and breastpiece. You got to come here and see the goat hair dyed in red. It's going to be different. You see, the old goat hair that people used to believe in religion, was something different. Now it's a different understanding. We're coming into the heart of the Scriptures now.
You know, what religion to start the world, because that's why I call them a false prophet, because they didn't have the teaching of the Scriptures. What happened now, we're coming to the teaching of the Scriptures here, and we're coming to the laws, and the laws that you really try to understand during your lifetime in religion are not going to be the same. Many people, after I read these things here, are going to leave faith itself because they say, oh, you taught us this all our life. Next thing you know, this is not it. Well, this is the way it is. The Lord has not prepared the world for the change of the laws, the understanding of the power that used to be that adultery was the greatest sin around. Now it's going to be that adultery is no longer a great sin because it's not even evil. It's not even wrong because the feeling that God puts inside of people comes from the Lord. And what people learned in church and all this stuff, it comes from mankind. So you got to destroy the teaching of man and come with the teaching of God. God, the feelings. God is the feeling that's inside of you here. And through that feelings, come to the power that we are within ourselves, the feelings of the Lord. And the Lord placed these feelings inside of us, and it's going to be a big difference. You see, what happened to used to be red before will be a different red. What has to be gold hair that was before is going to be on the other hand. So those that are first will be last. Those that are last will be first. That means that whoever thinks that his religion is going to save him, that's the same religion that's going to lose him. And that's what's going to happen. Because people think that they're going to be saved by a phony religion. You're not going to be saved by that. Because you're going to come to understand that the kingdom of God will not come from the people that just believed they were good. In the future, it's going to be different. You see, the real children of God that's going to be part of the new teaching, part of the new world, they're going to have to come from the great persecution. And who was persecuted on earth? The people that went to church, the people that went, they had all the right things in their life. No, it was the people that made all kinds of mistakes. And they were persecuted for it. And you're going to see a big change in the world. You're going to see the biggest change of all time. All those that used to think they were good will become evil. And evil in the way of the Lord is not the same evil in the way of mankind. Go ahead, Rita.
Then have them make a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell among them. Make this tabernacle and all its furnishings exactly like the pattern I will show you.
You see, make a new understanding of the Scriptures. It's not the same as it was. You see, the book of Revelation warned the world what was going to happen. It was going to happen that, religion has to be destroyed. It's going to take 1,000 years to destroy it, but it's going to come to be destroyed so the kingdom of God the door of the kingdom of God can be opened. But what's going to happen is that the people of this world that comes in the way of religion are going to be stunning. They're going to be so depressed by it because they did not follow the right thing. They thought that to them, going to church was the greatest thing on earth. Now it's going to become the greatest sin on earth because you're not going to listen to your spirit. When you used to listen to a false prophet on Sunday morning, it's not going to hit over here too good because the false prophet, God will send inside of them the unclean power of the spiritual of the Lord. And they're going to have a hard time to preach because, the thing will be changed. And it's going to change so rapidly that people will be upset. And they say, if you read the New Testament, many, many people will lose their faith here. Because you see, all these people that used to go to church before won't be able to understand the new teaching of the Lord. Because the new power to come to the new world and come to the new heaven is going to be so different that you can't realize. Go ahead, Rita.
Okay, regarding the ark, this is the next section. God said, have them make a chest of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, a cubit and a half wide, and a cubit and a half high. Overlay it with pure gold, both inside and out, and make a gold mounting around it, a gold molding around it.
Gold molding, yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Cast 4 gold rings for it and fasten them to its 4 feet, with 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other.
The power here, okay, now you got to come to understand here. Gold means goodness. So what you got to do here, you're making a covenant box here to understand everything that you understand, and everything that's gold has got to be placed in that thing. And you got to cover the whole thing with gold, because that's the goodness of the Lord. You cannot bring that old teaching that you have now in Christianity and religion all over the world. Has to be changed. And all the university, everything's going to be changed within 1,000 years. Nothing will stand still ever again. People will come to learn the scriptures. That I can tell you, that people will not live in the darkness that they live now. This darkness and this accusation of the poor people that went through the great persecution and were persecuting for doing good, and they were persecuting because they taught, the religion taught they were doing evil, will come to an end, and the new world will come to a new beginning. And you're going to see it so different. The island will be moved from its place in the mountain. The laws of God won't be the same, I tell you. And they're going to be so different that you won't be able, you got to try to understand, but it's going to take a long time. Each lifetime of the new 1,000 years, you're going to increase in this great power of the new world. You know, it's going to take the whole 1,000 years to create this new understanding, because in 7 lifetimes from now, you'll only begin to understand the power of the scriptures. Power of the scriptures won't be. Sexuality will no longer be a sin. It won't even be considered like it is now in the laws, and people that tell people, you know, how evil they are because they had a feeling for a certain woman. They have to go to court. They have to pay a retribution for that. This is going to go away, because the new order that God has made, He made it for the purpose of a new time, where people will be able to live in the freedom of their own feelings. You're not going to live against your own feeling no more. You see, in the old world, they made laws against the human feelings. They made laws of sexuality that was against your feelings. So people did not observe those laws, because those laws were not the way you were created. And if you were not created that way, why do you practice them that way? And because people didn't know any better. And now the time will come that the feelings of a human being will be put on the lampstand in the understanding of this great power of human thinking that will come inside of you, and human feelings. They're going to come, and they're going to bring to you this great understanding of all time. To be able to understand the laws of God is going to take a long time, but it's going to come true, because the Lord said, I'm changing this world. I can't leave it like that. You know, if He leaves it like that another 1,000 years, there won't be people on earth. We'll all kill each other, because the world has made themselves look like, you know, what is evil, they think it's wrong. They think it's good. And what is good, they think it's evil. So the Lord will come and take you and bring you His goodness. Gold. It will be process of gold all around. And everything that is good will come to be understood as good. And all that is evil will become to understand as evil. Go ahead.
Okay, does the size of that box or tabernacle, does it matter?
Okay, now that represent, you know, the scent of the power and the glory of intelligence here. You see, you got to understand that all these numbers in the Bible is the numbers of sin that you used to have, and what you're going to correct out of them. So the cubic in here is very hard to understand, because the cubic is not the same measure that we use today. You know, we don't use feet and all that. So we got to understand that the cubic are the Old and New Testament. Every time you have the 2 cubic and a half, you have the understanding of and then the other half that nobody understood. So that's what it is. 2 cubic long and 2 cubic high and a half gives you the half that you didn't have before.
Okay, because at the footnote at the bottom of the page.
Don't even read that.
Well, I was going to say at the box.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. You see, don't go with what's written at the bottom, because that's not the Word of God.
Okay.
This is the Word of God.
Then make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Insert the poles into the rings on the sides of the chest to carry it. The poles are to remain in the rings of this ark. They are not to be removed. Then put in the ark the testimony which I will give you.
You got to come to understand now that the heart is your testimony. It's your, you know, you see what you have. You're not going to build anything physical here. You're building something spiritual inside of you. In other words, you got a box, and you got to put all your thoughts and all your feelings and all your understanding into this box. So when you talk to people, these things will come up for you, and you'll make sense. In the old world, people didn't make sense. It was, you know, you used to go to church, and you used to, oh, you got to go to communion, you got to go to confession. This does not make sense anymore. We're coming into the new world, and none of these things are going to be brought into the new world. The thing is, what's going to be brought into the world is the truth. The truth will come to free the human heart from all this stupidity of religion that was made for the purpose of nothing. And the thing is, these people that claim to be men of God will come to be nothing. And they're going to fight that. They're going to fight it because they can't understand the teaching that we bring into them. And what's going to happen is religion will take it and twist it, and it will be destroyed eventually. It will be all destroyed on earth. They won't be Christian. They won't be, you know, Mormon. They won't be Muslim. They won't. Everything is going to be different because the world is changing. This is the 24th century, you know, the third day from the New Testament till now. Now you got to come to understand that this on the third day will not be like it was on the second day. It's going to be a new world. And this is only the beginning of it. So when you come to understand this new beginning, you will come to understand the glory of your intelligence. You were created with feelings. And feelings in the old world were all condemned. You know, if you had the feelings of sex, that was condemned. If you had the feeling, you see what happened is, you know, people, and then it made people do the worst things in life because your feeling contradicts what you felt, and the laws contradict what you felt. So what happened is religion contradicted what you felt, so it was a terrible thing to happen to a human being. So next thing you know, this man that couldn't have sex from anybody went in rape. You see, who was responsible? The false religion. Who was responsible for murder? It was false religion that didn't teach how to understand the spirit. And they did not understand the spiritual feeling that you have here that's controlled by God inside of you. And what happened is we're going to the new world. And we're going there in a way that you wouldn't believe, and the way the change is going to be. I'm trying to tell you this today, because me, I see this new change. I'm trying to tell you, I can't tell you everything now, because it has to be done in process for the purpose of the understanding that you're coming into a new world, and that new world will not be the way you think now. Okay, Rito.
Make an atonement cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide, and make 2 cherubim out of hammered gold at the ends of the cover. Make 1 cherub on one end, and the second cherub on the other.
Okay, let's see this. When you make an atonement here, you make a new covenant with the Lord. You make a new understanding. You see, this is really hard to explain to the people of the earth the way they think now. So you got to come to understand that if you're going to follow this new teaching and the understanding of the new teaching, you have to come to a new feelings, and you have to respect human feelings. See, human feeling was never respected on earth, and that's why we used to call the good people evil, and they used to call the bad people, you know, the people that went to church and the people that did nothing to work their feelings, those people, you know, we used to call them the good people. And it's going to be a difference. I tell you, the islands are not going to be sitting at the same place. And you're going to have to change your heart. And you're going to have to change your feelings in order to understand the coming time. So the coming time will come to be where this great power that we have inside of ourselves to come to a new understanding of the greatest power on earth that you can ever imagine. Because the Lord is going to pour His Spirit into the world. And people are going to burn. So there's going to be a different. The battle of our beginning is going to be fought within us. And it's going to be a tough battle. No, a lot of people that from the old school and the old world are going to listen to this. And they're going to try to destroy it. But they can't destroy what the Lord has created. They can't separate what the truth comes from, and they can't separate the Lord from the human spirit. You can't do that, because the time is coming for the human spirit to live according to his feelings. Go ahead.
Well, the atonement cover of pure gold.
The atonement cover is, put a cover on it. Make sure that whatever you believe, it's yours. And put a cover on it. Don't let people get into your thought, and because if the cover is not covered, and people go and look in your heart, they'll give you all kinds of fantasy, because they think that you're evil. They're going to think that you're evil doing good, and believe me, the new world is going to do a great deal of problem to the world. Nobody will be able to understand the great power of the Lord until the time comes. It's going to be done in session. Everything is going to be done in session. What I'm trying to tell you is the coming of the time. I'm trying to announce the coming of the time. I try to bring it to the understanding that it's not going to be the same. And religion is not going to be the same no more. So religion is going to take a tough dive, because religion is not prepared for this. What people used to think for all their life will come to an exhausted end. And next thing you know, they're going to fight and they're going to argue with each other until the Lord said, okay, now, when we'll see. You know, it's like the Civil War. You know, the Civil War of, you know, of the 19th century. People fought. And you're going to see the South win a lot of battle before the North finally win the battle. But, you know, only the truth can win the battle at the end. All the slaves of the South will be free. That's the way it was. Because, you see, that's a prophecy of the coming time, the Civil War. So you're going to take the Civil War and try to understand it, that people used to hate one another. The South used to hate the North used to hate the South, and they used to argue with each other. And they finally come to an understanding that what was done in the way of the North will come to defeat the South. You know, go ahead, read some more.
Okay, I'll read the line about the cherub again.
Yes.
Make one cherub on one end and the second cherub on the other. Make the cherubim of one piece with the cover at the two ends. Okay,
those are angel now. Angel, inside of that, you got one at one end, one at the other. The Old and New Testament that stays there on the cover of your understanding. You will come to understand the New Testament differently. It's not going to be the same no more, because the new time is coming to defeat the understanding that these people, Now, the New Testament will be with us forever, because the parable that Jesus talked about then will be with us forever. But the thing is, there's something that's going to change there, and it's the understanding. You know, the great power of the understanding of the Scriptures will be changed within us. We will take adultery differently. We'll take murder differently. We will take the ideas that used to be sin, and you will come to understand that these great sin of the world will be... See, in the old world, everybody believed that murder was a great sin. Then they had war and they killed each other off like crazy. They believed it, but they did not practice it. You see, that's the difference. It's the same thing with sexuality. They believed it, but they did not practice. Everybody was having sex with everybody around, and it was very few people that could withstand it, because it was not part of your feelings. It was different. And thing is, killing people will not be allowed in the new world, but it's going to be killing spirit. This is where the battle is going to be now. It's a new world. It's a new way of understanding. And all this understanding that we have is part of us for the glory of intelligence that God has created for us. And if you're going to have this planet come to a great power of a new change, you got to listen to what's going to happen. Go ahead, Rita.
The cherubim are to have their wings spread upward, overshadowing the cover with them. The cherubim are to face each other, looking toward the cover. Place the cover on top of the ark and put in the ark the testimony which I will give you.
Okay, so you got to come to understand. You see, the Old Testament and the New Testament are the two angels, and their wings are facing. I mean, they're facing each other.
Facing upward.
They're facing upward, and they're facing each other. So the great power here is trying to understand that the New Testament is connected with the Old Testament. The Old Testament is connected, because Jesus could not have understood this unless he understood the Old Testament. So what he did, when he brought the parables, he had to use terms from the Old Testament because they were connected together. So you got to come to understand. Everybody said, well, Jesus came and we don't need the Old Testament no more. It's the other way around. You need the Old Testament before you can understand the New Testament, because the people, the Christian of the world, don't understand the New Testament. They have no idea what's written in there that's different. And in the future, this will be explained, because many people will come in the teaching that I bring to you, and they will come to discover this great teaching that's in the New Testament. Now, that New Testament, I can only go with the Old Testament for a little bit, because I don't have that long to live. But the thing is, you got to come to understand that everything that you have inside of you is going to come to be the word that God has left for us to live by. The great cherub, I call him the angel, and the angel is not a man with wings. An angel is an understanding with wings. In other words, you understand it from one person to another, and it comes through the vocal cord, where it tells you what you understand today, what you understand tomorrow, will come to be the same. Now read some more, Rita, so we can...
Okay. Place the cover on top of the ark and put it in the ark, the testimony which I will give you. There, above the cover, between the two cherubim that are over the ark of the testimony, I will meet with you and give you all my commands for the Israelites.
Okay. See, what you got to do here, and which is the most important thing of all, you got to look at yourself, and you got to say, I have to learn. I cannot be stupid no more. I cannot depend on religion to teach me this new world. I want to be alive in this new world. I want to do things in this new world that I used to do in the old world. And things has to change in knowledge. You see, we're going to destroy the old world and the old way of thinking. You know, now you listen to Jeopardy, and they don't think about the new world there. They just think what was written before of the old world. But we're coming to a new world and a new understanding. What was good then will not be good enough today. That's not going to make it. Going to communion and receiving a piece of bread will not make it in the kingdom of God. This is not going to make it. And going to confession, telling the stupidity of your life to another person that does just as bad as you will not be tolerated there. And all these sacraments that the church has made up, you know what I mean, will not be accepted because they're not part of the new world. You know, you're going to see all these things being destroyed. And the reason that these things are going to be destroyed is because they don't fit in life. They're not part of life. They were brought and they made people miserable. And if you want to be happy in the world, you got to come to understand what the way God thinks, so you can think like that and live like that. You don't need no drug to live there. You don't need a lot of money to live there. All you need is the wisdom that the Lord will give you to live there. And you'll live there in safety. And you will be set free from all the stupidity that the world has made up in religion and government and all this thing. You see, we see this whole world now in the way that we can't understand it. We don't know why people are so evil. We don't really realize that the world comes into an understanding and people go around killing people and destroying and taking a machine gun and throw a whole bunch of people because the spirit has been hurt. Spirit has been destroyed by false learning. And if you don't stop learning falsehood in the understanding of government and everything else, you won't be able to understand the power of the new world. The new world is created for you here. It's created for you to come to understand this glory of intelligence. You got to come to understand the new covenant with the Lord, the new atonement, the new great power that you create in learning and the power of everything. Now, you see, there's not a religion on earth that teaches the truth now. Not one. Because they all have the same mentality that an animal, what you could make out of it, because the intelligence was not high enough to understand. Now we're opening a new door, and a power that is inside of us in the new understanding where the old world must be destroyed and the new world must take over. Read some more, Rita. Okay,
next section is the table. I have a question. Do you know what acacia wood is? Is it
yeah, that's the way your bones are made.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? That's the way your bone. You see, it does not mean the fabric of the bone itself. Yeah. It means this is the way your structure is made. You know.
Okay.
You're made of a structures that comes and holds you together in the power of yourself, because this is what is made, you know. And if you look at your bone, you know, they're made almost out of wood, you know, so they called it the acacia wood, you know. But this is what it's all about. It's the way your structure is. You had an old structure, now you're going to have a new structure, you know.
Okay.
You know, everything that's written here is in spirit.
Right.
You know. Okay.
Make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, a cubit wide, and a cubit and a half high. Overlay it with pure gold, and make a gold molding around it. Also make it around it a rim of handbreadth width wide, and put a gold molding on the rim. Make 4 gold rings for the table, and fasten them to the 4 corners where the 4 legs are. The rings are to be close to the rim to hold the poles.
Don't go too far.
The table.
You know, we'll explain it in 2 different ways here. Table means what? This is a table here, but it's not the table they're talking about here. They're talking about a spiritual table. You come to an understanding and you put your power on the table. You know, if you go see a lawyer, they'll have a nice table there, and they'll put there, and they're going to make laws out of it. This is the type of table. It's a spiritual table. You see, nothing in here is physical. There's nothing in the Bible that's physical, but people cannot translate, the understanding of spiritual into physical, so they can't understand physical into a spiritual term. So you got to come to understand that the table is where you set your cell, your laws, and you sit around the table like the old days. You used to have one table in the kitchen, the whole family, you sit around the table and talk about it. Well, this is the table I'm talking about. It's a spiritual table where you can sit around it and understand the power of goodness, the power of kindness, the power of, fairness, the power. And these are the things they used to talk around the table when, we used to talk about fair. Oh, this is not fair. They're not supposed to do that. And they're not supposed to do that to me. You see, you discuss the understanding. So you got to set a place inside of you where you meet your friend and you put your cards on the table. This is what I believe. This is what I know. This is what I understand inside of me. The power to understand that this table here is the table that I put my, and it tells you here, it puts 4 rings around it so you can carry it. You got to keep this table with you. This is your table. This is your understanding. You see, to live in spiritual terms, it's very hard to explain that to people that live in the fabrical world. When everything that's fabric, you build a table, the Catholic used to think that was the table, the holy table that they used to do the bread, consecrate, the bread. But this is different. This is a new covenant, and it's spiritual. It's no longer, you cannot think of anything, you cannot do nothing physical in this book that explained to you, because it's not what it is. It's a spiritual God that tells you about spiritual things, that makes you an understanding in the glory of the human intelligence that we're created. In other words, God gave us power 6,000 years ago to understand. But he said, I can't give it to you all at once. I'm going to give it to you a little bit at a time until you come, because if he did this 6,000 years ago, nobody would have understood. And everybody would have been, go back to the animal. So we had to be from the process of the animal until now, so we can come to understand that the new coming is coming, where the animal that we proceed inside of ourselves has to come with an understanding. And the spiritual understanding, God, I had a hard time to explain it, like I have a hard time to, even though I know it inside myself real good, it's hard to explain to people that never thought like that, because it's a different world. It's a different understanding. It's not the same teaching as what the Catholic taught for years and the Christian are teaching on Sunday school and all that. This is a different understanding. Everything is spiritual, and you have to put your spirit on the table in front of your friend and say, this is what I believe. I believe that the time has come for the new world to come. We can't live in the old world no more. You can't go. World War II showed us that war can destroy the world. They took 53 million people and killed them in World War II. If we take this and we live as we live now, we will destroy each other. There won't be enough understanding to get away from war. You know why there's still war? Because nobody's smart enough to get out of it. Both sides go to war. One says, well, I gotta straighten this guy out. The other guy says, well, I gotta straighten them out. And no one is smart enough to get out of it. It's a challenge that cannot be avoided, because we are not intelligent enough to avoid it. The new time will come when you put your table over there, and it's going to be a table, and the goodness will be put on the table, and the whole table will be covered with goodness, and everything that you understand will be there. And the reason that you have hooks and you have cane to haul it, because you got to carry it with you. You got to bring this table of your understanding with you wherever you go. And it's nothing. You could never carry a table full of gold like that, you know what I mean, with this type of measure, unless you understand the power of the weight that it is. And man, back in those years when Moses was around, everything was carried by hand and by donkeys and everything else. So you got to come to understand that this is not a table made of wood, not a table made of gold. It's a table made of goodness. It's a table made of kindness. It's a table made of bronze. You got to come to understand that it has to be fair, and everything has to be fair on that table in order to tell other people how to live. You cannot teach people how to live unless you have kindness, you have goodness, and you have fairness, and you have justice. See, all of these ingredients had to be put on the table so we can come to understand that everything has to be done because the old world was not smart enough. Now we have to come to an understanding where the power of what we are has to be understood as it was. Okay, read some more.
Make the poles of acacia wood, overlay them with gold, and carry the table with them. And make its plates and dishes of pure gold, as well as its pitchers and bowls for the pouring out of offerings. Put the bread of the presence on this table to be before me at all times.
You got to understand that these are all plates and the glass and the coat and the great power of, you know. You see, everything, all these utensils that you need on the table has to be put there. Fairness, justice, understanding, all of these things has to be there. If you can't understand the other guy, you got to fight with him. That's the way it's always been. And people, you know, oh, you like Castro, no, I want to kill him. You know, you see, and Killer wants to kill American, and the next thing you have Russian and American all fighting each other. And it proved in World War II, you see, the Lord sent the picture of the greatest catastrophe of war ever. There was never 52 million people that got killed before then. And believe me, people got killed and destroyed. And that was a prophecy of time, like the Civil War. It's a prophecy that these people had to look, and then people had their arm cut. They were blind, a lot of them. You see, this is what happened to the world. The world could not control themselves with thinking. They could not understand enough thinking inside of them to forgive the other one. They could not, because it was made it was not made out of gold. It was made out of stupidity and ignorance and everything else that you can put in there. And the leader were just as dumb as the people, because they create war, and they didn't know how to avoid war. They never had planned. If they could have, back in 1939, if the English could have avoided war with Germany, they would have. If Germany could avoid war with England, they would have. But they couldn't. They didn't have the mentality. They didn't have the brain. They didn't have the power, because the scriptures were not understood. When the scriptures are understood, and when the power, and you use these in the table of life. Now, read some more, Rena.
Now we're going to the lampstand.
Yeah, that's what I want to really come to.
Make a lampstand of pure gold and hammer it out, base and shaft. Its flower-like cups, buds, and blossoms shall be of one piece with it.
Let me explain that. See, this is what I want to go through this, because we only got an hour here, and I want to go through the whole thing. You see, the great power of the lampstand now, if we could see, the base has to be made of gold. In other words, you have to step on your feet with golden stain. Yeah, whatever it stands for the truth. See, this is what our leaders and all the people of the world has never understood. Where do you stand? Where do you stand with your light? Where do you stand with what you know? You don't have enough to avoid stupidity and ignorance. So you think of the other side and you think he's more evil than me, so let's kill him. And the other side thinks the same thing of this side, because there's no understanding of pure gold there. Nobody understands the purpose of freedom, the purpose of the understanding of the freedom of the great power that we have inside of ourselves. God, who is the truth, comes to you in the valid of this great power of the truth. And when he makes it valid to us, then we begin to understand what happened to this world. Why can't we get along with each other? Why this people has to fight each other each step of the way? Because they cannot understand the glory of intelligence. God has made this. You see, these scriptures will be here forever, and people will come to learn to live by them. Today, I come here, and I try to teach you the little that I have learned in my times on earth, to understand this great power that I have inside of me to bring the truth to the light of mankind. It's very little, and, you know, I'm not even an educated man, but I understand the power that comes inside this book to reveal to us the time that what we have in the lane, in the understanding of this lane, you got to come to understand the power of what gives you the light, and where it comes, it stains out. Read some more. We don't have too much time.
6 branches are to extend from the sides of the lampstand, 3 on one side and 3 on the other. 3 cups shaped like almond flowers with buds and blossoms are to be on one branch, 3 on the one branch, and the same for all 6 branches extending from the lampstand.
You see, you got to come to understand the chakra at this point. This is the chakra, the great power. You got 6 buds on one side and 6 on the other side. This is the way it is. Your heart is at the center of that. The pot that holds the water, the reality of it. So you got to come to understand that your feelings are created with a great power, and they create it with the understanding. You got the thinking, you know, that you have up there, and you also have the awareness that you have, the third eye that's over here, and then you have the power of the throat to speak and to bring. See, all of these things were put away and then was not brought up until the day of the Lord, to come to understand that these are there. Then you got the survival down here that survives you. The great survival of the understanding of yourself, you know, and then you have the great power of your sexuality. That was totally destroyed by religion on earth. That was so destroyed on earth that it's almost unbelievable. And that what made the human spirit so fearful of the great power of the... Then we had rape, we had murder because of that. Because it destroyed the most powerful feeling that you have inside yourself. Your sexuality, the reproduction of mankind, the whole power. And they made that a sin. And that destroyed the whole world of human thinking. Then you have the final one, is obedience. Which way are you going to go? Towards evil or towards good? You see, these are all power that's inside yourself. And they are the bud on each side of the lampstand. That's where you got to look at yourself, to be an understanding of yourself, where the bud comes out and gives you an understanding where God is. You have to have that. I wish, you know, that I had more time with this. Read some more, you know.
And on the lampstand there are to be 4 cups, shaped like almond flowers with buds and blossoms. 1 bud shall be under the first pair of branches, extending from the lampstand, a 2nd bud under the 2nd pair, and the 3rd bud under the 3rd pair, 6 branches in all.
You got to come to understand this, 6. And they all come from the same pot. And the same power. The pot is the center of it. It's the feelings of God inside of us. They come and they blossom in our life to make us understand the power of our intelligence. What we were created with. What makes us different from an animal. we have, you know, an animal has chakra too, I guess, because they think of things and they feel and they have. But we have the most incredible feelings because we have intelligence that meddles with it. And if we can get to this kingdom of God, where intelligence will be known to all men, and it will be like a transmission of knowledge from one to the other, we will come to understand how to live with ourselves in the world that we live in. God, who was the truth, is inside of us. And when you take that truth, it comes from the power of the Lord, common sense, and reality. See, these are the three buds there. You know, the truth, the common sense, and reality. Everything comes from the power of that, because it's measured as that. And all the measure that comes from the great power of that comes to be understood inside of us what we are inside of us. Try to get to the...
Yeah. The buds and branches shall all be of one piece with the lampstand, hammered out of pure gold. Then make it 7 lamps and set them up on it so that they light the space in front of it. Its wick trim...
let me explain that. That's very important to understand the lampstand here.
The 7 lamps.
Because this is the light. This is the light. You know, which way are you going to go? Which light are you going to take? You know, you get into a 4-corner stop, and there's a light there. There's a green light, a yellow light, and there's, you know...
The red light.
A red light. And if you go through it, you're going to make a sin, because you're going to try to cross the same time as the people on the other cross. So what you got to do, you got to follow the laws of the Spirit that's inside of you. God has made these laws inside of you, the power of yourself, to look at yourself and see the glory of this intelligence that we have inside of ourselves, and to be able to see it from our third eyes and from our heart. This is the most powerful thing that you can possibly have on earth, is the power to understand. And once you have this power to understand in the glory of intelligence, the table that you set your essential on, and all the things that you need to have the heart of the covenant. You have to have the power of the Lord, the covenant laws. And these covenant laws that lives inside of you are made by the Almighty God. And they cannot be changed with the laws of man. Don't think that what you think is going to make a big difference to the Lord, because the Lord already knows what are the real laws. The real laws, He lets you live with the fake law for 6,000 years. Now you got to come up to a new world now. You got to come up to the new way of thinking. And that's the thinking of the Lord. And He's not going to give it to you and say, well, you don't have to observe them. He's telling you here in the atonement with Him that you have to practice them. Otherwise, you won't be part of the new world. Who will be part of the new world? You've got to understand that the people that broke all the laws of the past were the people that will be chosen. And those that think they were way ahead of everybody will be rejected. And if you read the Old Testament, the New Testament, you're going to find the same thing, that the people of this world, you know, what did you say, 1 minute?
Yeah.
Okay, 1 minute. I got 1 more minute, and I wish I could finish the whole thing.
Well,
here.
we can finish it.
Yeah, just read it.
Its wick trimmers and trays are to be of pure gold. A talent of pure gold is to be used for the lampstand and all these accessories. See that you make them according to the pattern shown you on the mountain.
Be careful that don't try to fight the Lord. If you're a Christian, if you're Catholic, and you think this is all baloney, if you don't think that that's true, don't fight it. Because if you fight it, I tell you now, in truth, if you fight against the word that's written in this book and the understanding of the interpretation of this book, you will fight. Because if you think that I'm wrong, then I want you to give me your theory of it. And if your theory can make sense out of it, then I will believe you. But if you don't, believe me, I know because I've been there. I live with the Lord, and I understand the power of this great teaching that's inside that book. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys learned something tonight, because we're going to continue in the teaching of the law. And you have to learn. People of this world has to learn the laws of God. That's all there is to it.